What's up guys, Dickpin in here, and we're going to go over the worst games for 2016. Now these can be games that were maybe overhyped, that I thought were going to be really good but let me down, and to be honest, we only have 4. I tried to find another one to add to it, but I just couldn't find any. I had a long honorable mentions list, but I can't say any of them were bad. You know what I mean? I think they were pretty good to mention them, and you can check out that video in the description below. And tomorrow on New Year's, we'll be posting our top 5 games of the year for 2016. So, for the worst games, coming in at number 4, we have a exclusive PS4 game, and I know a lot of people might hate me for this, and it's a game that I actually beat, and I did think the story was good and it had a great ending, but Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. Now, this is going to probably be very controversial. You guys are probably going to hate me for it, but that game was nothing but a climbing simulator. Like, I do remember the end of the game. I remember it being great. I remember the cutscenes when you got to them were great. But the number one thing I remember in Uncharted 4 is climbing stuff. Climbing stuff in cold weather and just climbing and climbing and climbing until I got to a cutscene, and that's all I did in that game. And it was so annoying to just climb stuff forever. It's literally a climbing simulator as much as DayZ is a walking simulator. And it just really, it had its moments, but it had so much climbing that it got so frustrating, especially at the end. When you're just wanting to see what happens, you're trying to get through the game, and you have to climb for an hour, and you're just like, I almost rage quit that game so much. I am glad I beat it, and I did beat Uncharted 4. It was worth making it through to a good ending, but God, that climbing simulator. It was a bit much. Number 3. So this one, maybe I just didn't spend enough time with it, but Final Fantasy 15. Okay, I did play it a bit, and I did say it was good when I played it, but it just had a lot of potential, but a good bit of it was kind of just broken. Like, it was just like you couldn't get around certain simple things. Maybe I was doing it wrong, but the fighting was a bit broken. And honestly, hanging out with just 4 guys the entire time, like, it was nothing but a sausage fest. And by the time you get to the girl, spoilers, she dies. And then you're like, what the heck? I think the only good thing about the Final Fantasy 15 was Sydney and her booty, but you only really saw her a few times. I didn't beat that game, I returned it, but I don't know, man. I thought it was going to be really good and it wasn't. That was a bit of a letdown. So let's move on to number 2, which is a game that I honestly thought was going to be fantastic. Mafia 3. Now this is coming off Mafia 2. I loved Mafia 2. It had its flaws, the driving flaws, a bit mechanical flaws, but when Mafia 3 was first announced and shown, it looked like it had so much potential. Like a beautiful open world, fixed driving mechanics, better looking visuals. And to be honest, all that stuff is just not true. Like, the thing I remember the most is, the city was cool looking, and I'd go up to a building and thinking I could go inside it, and a lot of them you could, but when you went inside the buildings, you couldn't do anything in them. You couldn't buy a coffee at the coffee shop, you couldn't go buy food or anything, and that's the thing about the open world games this year, is just they didn't step it up. None of them stepped it up. They were all the old same stuff we were playing 3 or 4 years ago. Grand Theft Auto 5 is still a better game than any open world game that came out this year, and that's ridiculous. You know how old Grand Theft Auto 5 is at this point? It's ridiculous that all these open world games came out and they were just a huge letdown, and Mafia 3 was one of the biggest letdown of 2016, and that's why I give it number 2 worst game of 2016. So, you guys have any guesses what number 1 is? Can you guess what number 1 is? Alright, the number 1 worst game for 2016 is No Man's... sorry, something was in my throat. Far Cry Primal. Okay? I love Far Cry 3. It was great. One of my favorite games. I thought Far Cry 4 was... it was okay. I didn't beat it. I did beat Far Cry 3, but I didn't beat Far Cry 4. But Far Cry Primal was terrible. Like, they went backwards instead of forwards. They went into like the past when you're like this caveman guy, instead of going into the future where you could drive like flying cars and such. I thought it was so weak, and I'm not the only one. My best friend thought it was pretty weak too, and he loves Far Cry, and he loves older games like that. So I just think it was very, very weak. I just was not into Far Cry Primal at all. It was just like running through a jungle, turning into animals, taking over like little tribes, and that was it. It was extremely boring, and it was by far the worst Far Cry I've ever played. And then coming off of Far Cry 4 that wasn't that great. Oh man, I hope Far Cry 5 really shines and it really sheds some light on the series, because it desperately needs it. So like I said, there was only 4 games on the worst list. Like, we didn't have a lot of bad games. We had some good honorable mentions in the video in the link description below. Check that out. And tomorrow we'll be posting our top 5 best games for 2016. So join me then. Happy New Year's. Dust can fly, and let me know what you think was the worst games of 2016 in the comments below. Talk to you later. Peace. Hey guys, Duck here. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys could support the channel by liking and subscribing, and even leaving a comment below, it'd really mean a lot to me. And if you guys want to go the extra mile, we have a Patreon page. You can check it out in the link in the description below. And we have different goals that you guys can donate to, and it would really help keep this channel afloat. Thank you guys so much for listening. Ducks can fly, so please help us survive. Peace.